do what you want to your bike at your own risk. I am not responsible for what you do. And I've test ridden many times in dirt, in rain, in cold, in hot, in sport riding. I've noticed no negative issues, and I have not had to cut anything. So with that being said, let's get into it. The first thing we have to do is remove the seat. That hasn't changed. Now here's the first part you're gonna notice. This bit of Gorilla Tape, it's not taped on. I taped both sides with Gorilla Tape. It's taped down here and the same on the other side. I'll show you. See right there? When the seat's in place, you can see this little space. The only reason for that is any runoff or anything that shoots in here, which so far I've had nothing, hits the tape and rolls down and off, either back into the engine or away. Most importantly, not on the battery. I have not had to touch a battery on a motorcycle in 8 years, but this comes off really quickly. Just peel one tape here. You can always just rip it off and replace it with a new piece so it's sticky, but so far no issues whatsoever. Now normally you would have 1, 2 bolts here, 3, 4 over here, and then you would pop and slide. I just got rid of that. I want to figure out a way to get rid of the plastic back here without having to do too much work, because I like the look of the open trellis frame. What Ducati did was they just have a lower seat, like it doesn't stop here, it hangs down a little further so they don't need the extra plastic. Honda obviously couldn't figure that out, so they had to stick to the usual cheap plastic method. The next step is this bolt. I don't have that one in there either. So what you now do is you just pull and pop on both sides. So let's go around, pop, very easily. Now from here on, you actually do need tools. You need the proper size socket, you need the proper size Allen, and I like this dowel rod, which is 2+ centimeters, about 1 inch thick. So we'll start with the Allen. The 3 bolts, loosen 1, loosen 2, loosen 3. We can run around to the other side, loosen 1, loosen 2, loosen 3. Now the first comment that's bound to be popping up at this point is that this is taking more than 10 minutes. One is because obviously I'm explaining it to you, I'm not just doing it as fast as I can. The other reason is 2 hands are easier than 1, and I need 1 hand for the camera. Now the next thing is that the main comparison for this would be the Tenere 700, because that bike and many bikes have under-seat air filters. Now before we talk about that comparison, just remember there's still 1, 2, and you pop them out. I was curious if I could live without these. Things kind of move around a bit too much. One, 2, 3 pops to get this off. The other side's the same thing. Now again, comparing to the Tenere under the seat is not a direct airflow. Air comes from the front of the bike, so you're not getting as good air, and more importantly, you need to do the air filter more often because you are getting dirtier air from the back wheel and the dust flying up off the front wheel. When the air filter is in the traditional position closer to the engine, you get better air intake and you get cleaner air intake. There are 2 bikes on the same page as this that have figured that out. The first is obviously Ducati, and I don't hear a bunch of people complaining about Ducati, rather it's a masterpiece. And so part of that probably comes down to Ducatis are Ducates, and Honda is just that bargain thing that's fun to make fun of. But with Ducati, because they have the low seat like that and they don't have this side plastic, which I don't think Honda needed, but I don't want to cut it, it is just pull the 2 side fairings and then pull the tank. Where Honda does have the advantage, you'll see once we start taking the tank off, but we just need to take the 2 front bolts off and then it pivots. And that was an advantage of using the tape, is it still pivots. By the way, this is an M8 if you don't know. So with Ducati, you have to remove the tank, including all the hoses and electronics going into the tank. Whereas this, you can leave all of those in place and just tip the tank backwards. Now here's the next part that I've modified, beyond just removing the back plastic. Normally, there's a bolt straight back there. You probably can't see it on the camera, but there's a hole right there where there should be another bolt. I don't have that bolt. This piece of plastic mounts in so many spots. I figured let's ride and see what happens without it. I have not noticed one issue. Now this is why I'm not recommending this. Honda, I'm sure, is not going to like and subscribe to this video, but I have not noticed one reason for that bolt to exist where it is. In fact, if they thought this needed a mount, they could just lower it and share this bolt to have one bolt. So instead of that incredibly tedious bolt, we now just have the one bolt to get out. So the one company that really figured it out, because you do, if it's easy enough to change air filters, want the air intake up front under the tank. Aprilia, with their secret cubby door to get to the air filter right away, they are the best. If I lived in the USA where this bike only had 91 horsepower, or I lived close enough to an Aprilia dealer, I would have gotten the Aprilia, because the reliability issues I'm hearing from Aprilia are not nearly as bad as other European brands, and are usually very fixable. But now you've removed the one bolt here. There are two more of these that I've removed. One is right here, one is right here. Because of these bolts, I don't notice any need for them, but now that I don't have them, this flex is even better. So you don't take the whole dash off of, and you're not nearly breaking this every time. Lift that back, and the whole tank lifts up, and the dowel rod goes straight through to here. Now the one thing that is still in the way that I haven't taken off, and I'm going to take off now, Honda's little rope. I'm not sure why I want to prevent it from tilting back this far. And now that it's done like that, you can rest the dowel rod right there carefully. Notice it's on the frame, not on the hoses, and it's up here. So barring an earthquake, which Japan does have many, should be fine. But it's as simple as pulling off the airbox. Now, I don't live in a desert, so I haven't actually checked my airbox ever. So let's check it now for the first time for fun and see what 4,000 kilometers looks like in Japan. Now this is where I do need to concede another point to Yamaha, because I have no allegiance for either one. I have an allegiance for a good design. But Yamaha, it's 4 bolts and you're out. This is many more than 4. So as much as this might be a deal breaker for a lot of people who don't even own this bike and are watching this video just to tell me how stupid I am, I look forward to your comments. I don't change my air filter that often because I don't have to in Japan. This is the second to last major modification I need to make, excluding suspension. Most people, at least on the internet, who clearly have an engineering degree and are not just parroting what they heard on a chat room forum or a YouTuber with no works cited or sources, is telling you that you should be replacing with a reusable K&N filter or something of the sort. I'm not going to do that. I might do something else. K&N and most of those style filters, nothing against them, they're just popular and available in Japan. But DNA, all of them, they do let more air through and get better airflow and a very, 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 very small power bump, something like 1 to 2%. But every single test I have seen, every unbiased research I have seen, they do let more dirt through. Why would you let more dirt through with an off-road bike? Also, they need to be cleaned more than paper filters need to be replaced. So I'm going to stick with paper for now, because in Japan, I can get the K&N and the cleaning kit, or by my current rate of use, about 3 to 4 years worth of paper filters that will be cleaner, meaning my bike will last that long. One more bolt. So there are 9 screws. And here we have the air filter. which is held on by yet more bolts. I thought of this video more than I actually practiced, because I didn't realize the filter itself would be screwed in place with 5 screws, which is pretty stupid. Even with my current modification setup, this is a very stupid air filter for an off-road bike. While we're at this point, pretty sure you can see this is spotless. 4,000 OEM air filter kilometers, close to 3,000 miles, at least 1,000 kilometers have been in the dirt, many of which in dry dirt. I will keep this filter. But the sponge style filters are genuinely cleaner, be they a touch more maintenance. I am hoping Funnel Web comes out with one, because their design lets it catch dirt in the crevices and keep air flowing through the peak. But as rare as I change air filters, this is not a deal breaker for me. If I lived in a more desertous part of California or Arizona, this is a pretty big deal breaker. If I was one of those people that really thought dirt riding is where it's at and the street is just in the way, I would not have gotten this bike. I would have gotten a Tenere, because a careful hand is good to go. There's almost no dirt. Like, that is the slightest dirt. Like, I'm just gonna tap it to see if anything comes out. Nothing. So this is still good for a long time. I will check this every oil change, but I'm not going to be excessive about changing filters. Now, the timer on my camera is now saying 23 minutes. So with one hand for half of it, narrating it, doing a couple steps a couple times, and refilming, I did actually get in here pretty quick. If I was focusing and not talking to you, the viewer, 10-15 minutes, no question, I'm in. It's getting clean air from the front. It's not getting tire spat up air like a Tenere. So it's easier to change the Tenere's air filter, and it's a much more significant requirement. You could say the title of this video is, why did Aprilia do such a good job and everyone else? But that's it. I'm just gonna put this back together. If you have any questions about anything you saw on the bike today that I didn't talk about in this video, here is a playlist with everything. So please check those out. Thank you for watching. Until next time, this has been Kaidu Rider. That's Kaidu. Bye-bye.